Welcome everybody out tonight. And last week we talked about waste not, want not, which was three things that normally get thrown away that could be your food or medicine. And those were giant zucchinis that nobody wants this time of year, and corn silks and propolis from beehives. And all of those, the corn silks and propolis are medicine, and the giant zucchini can be made into zucchini flour as a substitute for at least part of your bread flour or other baking needs. So that was kind of interesting. So see if we can get through the market segment today. Today the markets were generally mixed. Gold was up a little bit at 23.21. Goldbacks were the same as prices that were last week at 461. Not much but sideways movement in that arena. Silver was at 28.91. Gold silver ratio is still at 1 to 80. It was 179 last week. Tilt and zeros were both steady today, been trending higher in the last week. And I just wanted to comment about that. You know, historically, long-term treasuries has been the prudent thing to get into when you expect a stock market crash or a recession. And, you know, you just collect, 3.5%, 4% coupon and maybe some capital gains as interest rates go down. But question is it different this time? And I feel that possibly it is, because we may not have such a demand for those treasury bonds. We've got, of course, Russia and China trying to get rid of theirs, and Japan has been dumping theirs lately. And looks like Saudi Arabia is going to quit buying any more. So anyway, I think that's a risk. I think treasury debt is riskier than it's been in our lifetimes. It's just my opinion. So today wheat was down again. It's pushing $5 mark. It's 5.17 today. It broke through resistance at 5.40 and kept on going down. It's mighty cheap. DBA, which is agricultural commodities ETF, was down a little bit at 23.96, and the DBC, which is more energy and precious metals related, was also down at just a couple of pennies at 23.17. And the weird thing is, maybe I missed it, but maybe world peace broke out, but all the industrial military complex stocks that I follow were all down today. And that's pretty unusual, especially with as much wars are being stirred up around the globe. So I think there's an opportunity there also. Natural gas was down, and along with Southwestern and Chesapeake. LNG was actually up, I guess because we have potential to export more gas to Europe, especially Germany. So they don't have a pipeline anymore from Russia. And U.S. oil was down below $79 today. So the question is, does that mean recession, or as opposed to inflation? Have to see where that leads. Bitcoin was up to I think it broke back over 62,000 today. So been going down for the past week, but had a pretty good snapback rally today. And we had talked a couple of weeks ago about Wisconsin pension fund invested in a couple of Bitcoin ETFs, and prospect of 49 other states doing the same thing possibly. And then Ethereum got the same situation as far as Ethereum backed ETFs coming up. It had a good snapback rally back over 3,400 today also. So we've talked about war on fossil fuels, and of course war on the middle class, war on cash. It's like they really are getting serious about eliminating cash. A lot of businesses are not taking it, and so spend it while you can. Keep it around as long as you can. War on food in the Netherlands, Germany, France, India, Italy, USA, possibly. War on gardens in some states like Oregon and Pennsylvania. War on meat, especially. And then I've been saying the war on cancer. They didn't show up like the French. They just surrendered. Cancer is at all-time high, especially colorectal cancer, and in younger and younger people. So seasonal information. We've got it's getting a little late to plant trees. May have a comment there. I wouldn't take a tree today because it was so hot and dry. Somebody knows.
Oh, I happened to stop by the co-op today, and trees aren't looking so good, but I have started wondering, is September, I think we're not supposed to plant them in the fall until the leaves fall. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the normal wisdom is wait until
Yeah.
if they were potted up, it would probably actually be okay to go ahead and plant them at like Labor Day, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely if they're going to be disturbed and get bare rooted, wait till they've gone dormant.
Yep.
So okay, so speaking of fall, it's time to start planting the fall garden, believe it or not, and we'll talk about that in the main event tonight. But it is maybe too late to plant trees, but it is time to propagate some things. Like I've got comfrey propagating, and blueberries starting to propagate. See how that works out. No roots yet, but they're still alive. And of course, the bees need a lot of help from us this time of year. It's this hot, and still time to get fall sales on seeds for next year. And still got a chance to get your potassium iodide, which Mike says they have at Yoder's. Now it's the time that we talk about any progress anybody would like to share. I've been doing anything that noteworthy other than keeping the air conditioner warm?
We have a new mailbox.
Yeah. My neighbor encouraged me to get that repaired. it was kind of shaky until he ran over it or bumped it with his batwing bush hog. And
I have some parts ready to install on my current in-service pump that will protect it from in a run dry type situation, but haven't quite got it installed yet. But getting it to the kitchen table is the first step.
Well, um, here's one thing I've done in the last 2 or 3 weeks is I got some comfrey growing in pots from just all I did was pull up some comfrey stalks, and they had little shoots on the bottom of them, and so I trimmed everything else off and gave to the sheep or the chickens or the pigs or something, and then planted that little shoot, and now I've got nice new comfrey plants. A good herb to have around for all kinds of things. And I guess this is progress. It did it all by itself pretty much, but this is my sweet potato patch. I mean, they're enjoying the summer hot and dry pretty much. You know, they've as you can see, they've filled in, and they've made their own shade and their own mulch, and they're doing quite well. A few things.
Mine don't look bad, but nowhere near that good.
I mean, they just in the last week they just burst out and covered all that. And then I've got the herb of the day, and I suspect nobody will be able to identify this, but take your best shot if you got an idea. It's a mint, square stem, in bloom.
Not hairy mint, is it?
No. Tastes
No idea.
It tastes like licorice, which is kind of interesting. But this is Korean mint, and been growing it for 2 years now. And the first year, I don't know whether you, not really much to get perspective on there, but that's like 4 foot tall this year. It's in a garden bed with some asparagus that I'm trying to get to take over that bed. There was some space available, and then I planted from seed, you know, last spring, and then I thought it was an annual here, but it came back as a perennial. I mean, it may be a biennial or something. I don't know, but it also bloomed last year though, but it only got a foot to 18 inches tall, and this year it's like 3.5, 4 foot there, and got some in below the house and just red clay, and it's not near that tall, but it really takes off, and it's a medicinal, and said tastes like licorice. If you like licorice, it's kind of similar in profile to holy basil or tulsi, so along that line. Easy to grow. So anyway, what main course tonight was a couple of things about what can you do with a $53 solar panel, and that's a 100-watt panel. And as I was telling Mike earlier, my thoughts on solar was that, you know, until just recently, our average electrical bill was less than $100 a month. So I just couldn't see that I could justify spending megabucks on a solar system. That couldn't see how I could ever put a pencil to it, but play a video from a guy that he kind of pushes Opus solar generators, but this could be hooked up to any solar generator as far as I know. But if you add permaculture math and economics to it, and what I was thinking about is take your, instead of just setting your solar generator on the shelf and waiting for the power to go out, instead you run it every day to maybe a prime load, like something that you don't want to go down, like a refrigerator. Depending on how big a solar generator you get, it could run a refrigerator for one of the smaller ones, or a refrigerator and a freezer, maybe a couple of freezers for one of the larger ones or mid-sized ones. And it might, save you enough electricity to pay for it. And if it fails, you just plug those devices in, to your grid normally. So anyway, to me that changes the equation. So let's see what he has to say here.
To do this, prepping on the cheap video for a while now, just haven't had the time, but I'm finding it today. Today we're going to review the cheapest solar panels that I have ever seen, and I got these from Amazon. They're called Dokyo solar panels, and what makes them even better, in my opinion, not having even taken them out of the box, is that not only are they cheap for what they are, but they're flexible. They're some of the lightweight, flexible solar panels, and they come in 100 watt each. And wait until I tell you how much I paid for those. But first I have to show you something really cool. I want to show you a gift that my daughter gave me for Father's Day. Look at this thing. I don't know if you can see it good or not, but this is a knife that she gave me. And look at this. Is this cool or what? I just had to show that off. I don't know why. I just think it's pretty cool. Let's open this box. Let me show you what these solar panels look like, and hopefully they will perform. Because let me tell you what, whenever you get solar panels that are like the name brand, like let's say you get Opus solar panels or Dabson solar panels or Jackery solar panels, or whatever solar panels come with whatever solar generators, usually from my experience, they are very high quality and very efficient solar panels. But why not go out there if you can't afford to spend $400 or $500 on a 240 watt solar panel? Why not go out there and spend a couple of $100 on like 400 watts of solar instead of 200 watts of solar? You're getting twice as much, and hopefully the efficiency will be just as good, if not just a little under, where you're still getting the best bang for your buck. Let me stop talking and let me show you what these solar panels look like. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I have to make a little bit of room out here because I'm working on a few household projects. But I'm actually very interested to see what these solar panels look like and to see how well they perform. We're going to go ahead and connect these solar panels to one of my mega solar generators, specifically the one that I use to power the hot water heater for my new kitchen. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, these are MC4s, which is great because I do believe that MC4 connectors are the most common connectors that there are in the solar industry. Let's go ahead and take this protective film off, and look at this. This is what they look like. Let's see. Let's take them off nice and easy. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you right now that I'm going to like these because they have these little grommets right here that you can use to hang somewhere and have them be mobile. But another thing that you can do, and maybe one day when I have an RV and it's running, I can go ahead and put these on the top of an RV, and what you can do is you can silicone them on there to where they will be semi-permanent. You can leave them up there all the time, but if you want to take them off, it'd be very easy to take them off. Now let's take a look at the specs for these guys. Now I don't know how delicate these are. I'm not sure how much you can bend them, so I'm going to be trying to be careful. But right here, we're looking at 100 watt. We're looking at 18 volts. And I usually use the highest voltage that I can whenever I'm dealing with these, so that I don't overpower any system that I'm putting it into. So we're going to go with 20.5 volts. And I'm going to show you later on why this is important. And then we're looking at 6.5 amps. And it can operate all the way to negative 45 degrees Celsius or up to 80 degrees Celsius. So it has a very good temperature range. Now, sometimes people get lost on this, so let me try to explain it the best way that I can. So if we're looking at, let's say, 20.5 volts per solar panel, it means that with specifically the Mega 3, the solar generator that I'm going to connect these to, that solar generator is maxed out at 150 volts, which means that if I align these or connect these solar panels in series, I can only connect up to 7 of them together in series, because that will give me about 143 volts. So that is very good news, because I've got 6 of these solar panels. If I connect them all in series, I'm under 130 volts, which is well under the max that the Mega 3 allows to come in as far as when it's being charged via solar. Now, when we take a look at the amperage here says 6.5, which is also great news, because when you connect solar panels in series, the amperage doesn't change. So that means that I can go ahead and get another 6 solar panels side by side connected in series, and then connect those 2 systems in parallel, and I will be under the 15 amps that is the max for the Mega 3, and I will be under the 150 volts. So this is a very nice number that we got 6.5 and 20. We should be able to get a whole bunch of solar. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know all that jibber jabber that I was talking about the voltage and stuff like that? Let me go ahead and put that into practice. This is very simple to determine. That way you don't end up maybe damaging a solar generator whose BMS or battery management system fails. It's just something to get in the habit of doing. And this right here is just a very inexpensive voltometer. This thing will measure how many volts is going through the wires. And I think this costs like maybe 12 bucks, less than $20, I'm pretty sure, on Amazon. You can get these anywhere. And it is a great tool to have. So let me show you, for example, on one of these solar panels, and I hope that you can see this number here okay, but let me show you on one of these solar panels how these are, I think I remember reading 20 volts or 18 volts at the low and like 20.5 volts at the high. And I always take the high no matter what this says. If this says 18 or 18.5 and the high that it states on the back is 20 or 21, I always do my math with those numbers, but I like to verify with this. So check this out. This is just one solar panel. So just this one solar panel should be showing a voltage of between 18 and let's say 20. Let's say what it says. And there you go, 18.5 volts going through one solar panel. Now let me show you what I mean about getting these hooked up in series, how your voltage adds up, but your amps don't, your current doesn't. So to put these in series is very easy. It's already plug and play. All you have to do is connect these 2 ends together, all right, the positive and the negative from one solar panel, and then the other 2 positive and negatives, one from each. You're going to have them right here, and you're going to be able to see that the voltage should go up to roughly twice of what it was before. All right, look at that. It's at 31 or so. So the voltage didn't go up as high, but it's at 31. I'm guessing that the more sun that these get, the higher that this number will be. Okay, so being that we're under shadow right now, that number is probably not as high as it should be. but that's why I use the highest number. So now let's go ahead and connect the third solar panel right here. See how easy it is? This is connecting them in series, okay? And there you go. And look at our voltage. We're all the way up to 40. Again, it's more than likely because we're under shade. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and bring these solar panels to where I've got it set up for them to be temporarily. We'll hook them all up. We'll see what the voltage is, and then we'll see what kind of power they produce going to the solar generator. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is temporary. Let's go ahead and hook all of these up, and then let's see what kind of power it produces, because the sun is at a pretty good location right now. And now the only two connectors that we have left is going to be our two MC4 connectors, one from one end, which is the male, and one from the other end, which is the female. Let's go ahead and check what the voltage is on all of these connected together. Here you go. We are behind one of the solar panels. You can see 115.3. So we could probably put more on here, and the Mega 3 would have no problem taking that voltage, but I'd rather just have 6 more solar panels along with these connected in parallel instead of in series. All right, so again, here are the two ends from the solar panel array, and here are the two ends from what I've got hooked up to the Mega 3. Let's go ahead and connect these, and then let's go ahead and connect it to the Mega 3 under the house. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is not too bad at all, being that the sun is not really in its optimal location right now. We are pulling in easily 400 watts from those 6 solar panels, which really is not too bad. Right now, with the sun not being in the best place that it can be, we're pulling in about 65% efficiency, if not a little higher. And you just can't beat that for 55 bucks, I have to say. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave this hooked up. I'm gonna come back, I don't know, in about 2 or 3 hours when the sun is right overhead, pointing directly at those solar panels. And we'll come back and revisit this and see what it's at when the sun is where it's supposed to be. So far, I'm pretty happy with this setup. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I came in here to see how much power we were getting in because the sun is at its optimal position. But as you can see, even though the sun was not at its optimal position before, when we were getting about 430, 420 watts in, it's already at 100%. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, Victor is here. Victor, what are you doing here?
I had to move a couch. I'm sorry, it's been a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are new here, Victor is my adopted Russian son. I found him on the street one day and I had to bring him in.
No. I found him on the street one day.
80 watts of solar in, and that hot water heater is consuming about 1,700 watts.
One grandchild presented.
Oh, here we go, Michael! There's Michael, man! Michael, say cloud passing by. When I came out here, I took a look at this and I was like, that's why we're not getting that much energy out of these solar panels. Because the sun is no longer in the prime position. And I apologize about that. Michael showed up and I forgot all about time. So in order to determine what the average solar that we were getting as far as input, we can look back that when I hooked up that Mega 3 along with these solar panels here, the ones that we're reviewing today, it was around 10:30 in the morning. And when we went back in there and saw that it was at 100%, it was around 1:30 in the afternoon. So easily 3 hours. I'm not sure how long or how far behind that 1:30 in the afternoon time it got to 100%, but let's say it took 3 hours. for it to reach 100% from 61%, or let's say 60% to make it easy. So the Mega 3 has a battery size of 3,072 watt hours, and it was at 60%. So what's 40% of 3,000, let's say? It's roughly 1,200 watt hours. So in 3 hours, we got roughly 1,200 watt hours of power, minus however many minutes that reached 100% before I went in there at the 3-hour mark. So you can easily say that at the very worst, these panels performed at about 400 watts per hour for 3 hours to fill up that unit. I personally think it was a little bit more. Obviously it was about 420, 430 when we were looking at it, but I think that it filled up to 100% a little bit faster than 400 watts per hour for the 3 hours. So in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely worth the 52 bucks or $53 that I actually paid for it. Not only are these solar panels a lot lighter than their counterparts, but they produce just as much, if not a little bit more energy from the sun than their counterparts. And by counterparts, obviously, I mean these solar panels here that have an aluminum frame and that are just a lot heavier and bulkier. And in all honesty, not quite as efficient as those lighter ones that are flexible. Now, how long will these last? I don't know. We're going to have to see. Definitely, I don't think that these should be left outside to hang out with the rain and such, because although they're supposed to be waterproof, ladies and gentlemen, I did find a few of these boxes open and I just clipped them back on. Easy enough to clip on, but I wouldn't really feel very comfortable leaving these out in the rain. And if so, I would go ahead and take these little lids off and put silicone around them to make sure that no water can get in here. Now, this part right here looks like it's the only part that can be infiltrated with water. Other than that, the MC4 connections over here, to me, they seem to be pretty sturdy. They all had an O-ring, which is what makes them waterproof. So the question is, would I recommend these solar panels? Absolutely. I think they performed very well for what they are. And in all honesty, had I been out here when the sun was at its prime angle, I'm pretty certain that we would have probably been reaching upwards of 500 watts per hour. But even at 450 or so watts, which is what I believe it averaged, it's a great deal for a $52, $55 panel. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much these cost now, because as you know, prices do change on Amazon all the time. I will leave these linked on a pinned comment if you want to go take a look at them. And I'll go ahead and put the current price as of the recording of this video up on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, so you can go check it out if you want to. Again, I'm not taking anything away from the other solar panels that manufacturers of solar generators produce, but if you can't afford a $450 or $500 200 watt solar panel, then I think that these are a great option. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Perfect.
Okay. Anybody got any comments about that idea?
How much did he say it was per panel of those that he bought?
It's like $53.
Okay.
Or,
And they were 100 watts each?
yeah, or 53 cents a watt.
Okay. I was just thinking of the panels that go on the roof. They're more like 500 watts. Obviously they're not flexible,
Right.
and they're fragile, but 500 watts, and they're usually around, I think you can get those for around 200 or 250. Of course, finding someone to sell you one or two is, and shipping ends up being a challenge, but I was just thinking about the efficiency of and how much space they take up.
Yeah. Yeah, like for my situation where I would put them up on my south facing roof, and they'd be kind of solid. I mean, it would be better to have a stronger, steadier panel, I would think, but
Yeah. You can also buy used panels, that, you know, that were state of the art a while ago, but I'm looking at some right now they're 250 watt. You know, I don't know what their current output is, but that's something that's held me back from buying some of these portable units, is just the price per watt, and I'm just not sure about the trade-off, given I'm not sure portability is that important to me, you know?
Yeah, the flexibility idea was kind of interesting. If you could just slap 6 of those on top of a van or something, and
Yeah, they did look extremely flexible. I will say that was pretty interesting, almost like stickers or something.
head off into the wild blue yonder. The other thing, did you notice that he was using this on, or he was going to use this on his electric water heater,
I didn't.
which is kind of a you know, that's your magic appliance that consumes a lot, and it's not real
Yep.
not real sensitive to voltage and stuff. And it doesn't, it's not that critical that it runs all the time necessarily.
That's right.
I mean, even without a battery system, you know, I mean, I guess you want to explain what a solar generator is comprised of, or comprises one?
Well, I mean, you probably know more than I do, but I think it's just a set of panels and then some batteries and an inverter in a small package. With the ones that I've looked at that are attractive to me, I like that, you know, potentially you can use them as a portable battery source, but also as like a UPS or like a backup power. The ones I've looked at, you can plug them into your grid even, and then plug them into a load, and they'll charge and pass through, and then if the power goes out, they kick on instantly. But I can't say I don't own one, so I can't say I'm an expert.
Yeah, I don't either, but and the neat thing about them is you could, you know, I mean the solar panel is extra, you know, they don't, well,
Yeah.
some of them do and some of them don't, but you know, they also can just be sitting there in your house plugged into the grid, and when the power goes out, you know, you fire it up and run something off of it, depending on how big it is, and you know, and that may work for you know, a 4-hour or an 8-hour outage, you know, without getting any additional power to it. But,
Yeah, without having to, if you don't have a whole house generator, then you don't have to drag anything out. And
but to get it to pay for itself, you know, you need something that's you know, that you can use it on every day, so to speak. I mean, like, it's probably not big enough to charge a Tesla, but it might charge a lot of other, you know, it might charge a lawnmower or something like that, and certainly power tools and cell phones and laptops and all that stuff. And like I said, I think you could run a refrigerator and a freezer and just have that every day that way. As long as you had an alarm on that freezer, make sure it's staying cold. But anyway, that was my thoughts on it. So the other thing was, since it is almost July, is 7 crops you can still plant in July. And I want to add one more at the end, but these guys are our gardening cheerleader. Had some good ideas in here, I thought. It's like the biggest problem of planting in July is getting things to germinate in the heat of the summer, and he had some good ideas for that.
James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Just because it's July doesn't mean that me and Tuck are finished planting. So today we're going to share with you 7 crops you can still plant in July. Let's go! Before I get into the 7 crops that you can still plant in July, I first want to mention that I'm in zone 7A. So a lot of these crops are going to pertain to that particular growing zone. Let's get into the first crop you can still plant in July, and this one is cucumbers. So even though cucumbers are in their peak production right now, with just cucumbers everywhere, as you notice here and over here too. So even though they're in peak production, doesn't mean that they're almost finished. These cucumbers have still a lot of time. So our cucumbers will produce up to the first day of frost. In New Jersey, that first day of frost doesn't come till around October 15th. So that still gives us about 100 days to grow cucumbers. And having 100 days left for cucumbers is fantastic because a lot of your typical cucumber varieties only take about 60 days from seed to harvest. Something like the Socrates cucumber that I just showed you, which is one of my all-time favorite varieties to grow, only takes about 54 days. So we still have plenty of time to get a lot of fruit from these plants. When it comes to planting, you can either directly sow your seeds into the ground and then make sure you put a nice mulch over it, or you can start seeds in cells like I do right here. This is the easiest and best way in my opinion. Once the plants are ready, I can put them into their new home. The second crop that we can still plant in July are green beans. And some of the bush beans are my favorite ones to put in the ground at this time of the year, especially the dragon tongue bean. That only takes about 60 days from seed to harvest, so there's still plenty of time. When it comes to the bush beans, I plant them about 9 per square foot. I make sure when I plant them that I water them in really well, but I also put a pretty thick mulch down of something like these diced leaves. This way the ground stays moist so that we can get good germination, because at this time of the year it starts to get hot, so having good germination on things can be a little tricky. That's why we need to put that mulch down. And the beans are strong enough to push right up through that mulch, which is just fantastic. Tuck's waiting for some green beans. We don't have any ready yet, but they'll be ready quite soon. If you want to plant some pole beans, just make sure you keep an eye on the variety and how long they will take. For instance, something like our purple, the yard-long bean, that's going to take like 90 days to harvest. So if you want to get a good harvest from that one, make sure you have enough days left until your frost. Like I mentioned, we only have about 105 days left here until our first frost. Before I get into the next crop that we can sow in July, I first want to mention to grab some summer merch at jamesprigioni.com. If you want to support the channel, if you like the summer merch, grab it while it's still here. It's a limited time thing. Let's get into the next crop. So the third crop that we can still plant in July are summer squash. Stuff like our zucchinis and our patty pan squash. So just like cucumbers, zucchinis will produce up to the first day of frost. Some awesome varieties like the Costado Romanesco that I just showed you, they only take about 60 days from seed to harvest. So if you're like me and you have zucchinis that are growing fantastic, don't just be happy with that. Make sure you get a whole nother round of plants going, because something could happen to these plants, maybe a pest issue or something, and if something like that ever does happen, we want to make sure we have another round to replace it. Or maybe you didn't even plant your squash yet. You can get it into the ground now. You still have plenty of time to get fantastic harvests. When it comes to planting your summer squash, you can either directly sow it into the ground in the spot you're going to grow it, or you can plant it in a tray like this. This is how I particularly like to do it, because I may be putting the squash in a spot that I have plants in already. When I do it like this, what I like to do is wait for the plants to have at least 2 true leaves, and then I could take these transplants and move them into a location where I don't have anything planted, or I can replace another squash. One thing that's important to mention at this time of the year is it starts to get really hot in like July and August, so actually starting a lot of your seeds can be tough. That's another reason that I like using these seed trays. What I do is I kind of create my own little like germination incubation chamber. What I do is I use this hinged hoop house like I have here that I took off one of my beds. Then if I want to pop some seeds up and it's super hot out, I could just take my 40% shade cloth and lay that over the top. This will create some natural shade for the plants. This way they're not getting too stressed out on super hot days. So I either like to use this for getting some of my plants out of the ground, or I like to use this when some of the plants are young. If it's super hot, we just don't want to stress those young seedlings out. If you don't have a shade cloth like this, you can also do what I'm doing at this other end. Just put your trays in a location that gets some filtered sunlight, naturally, like through a tree or something. Because again, one of your issues with planting things in July and August is going to be the germination of the seeds, because it does get hot at this time of the year. Before we move to the next veggie, it looks like Tuck's starting to sniff it out. He knows where he's going. I want to give him some water real quick though, because I know he's thirsty. So we'll give this guy some fresh water. He's always out here, he's always dedicated, so loyal. spam the hearts down in the comments if you love seeing Tuck in the videos, and then also hit that subscribe button if you love seeing the boss in the videos. Such a good guy. So the fourth crop that we can still plant in July are carrots. Let's actually see if Tuck wants one. Hey Tuck, we got any carrots back here for you, boy? So the thing with carrots is they're a bit tricky to grow at this time of the year because of the germination. So carrots need 2 weeks to germinate, which is about 1 to 2 weeks, I'd say, actually, to germinate. The tricky thing is that it's super hot at this time of the year, so the soil doesn't stay that moist. So what you would think is, let's get some thick mulch down. The thing is, carrots don't really push up through mulches, so they don't really like to be covered at all. So how do we do this? How do we keep the soil moist without actually covering it too much? So that's where I like to use one of my famous tricks that I got from Bill Mollison. Let me grab it right here. I call this the carrot board trick. So essentially what we do is we plant our carrots in our 1 square foot section. We just drizzle them on the top, 16 carrots per square foot. We drizzle it right on top, barely cover it at all with any soil. Then we water it in, and then we take our square foot board and we cover the carrots. We cover the carrots so that the ground stays nice and equally moist. This way we get good germination. And after about a week, we need to make sure that we're going out there every day and checking on our carrots to see if they are germinating or popping up. Because if they pop up when the board is still covering them, that's going to be bad news. So you want to make sure you go out there regularly, see if your carrots have popped. Once you see them starting to pop, take that board off. After your carrots have grown to a decently large size, then you could get the mulch around them. But it's super important to not put a deep mulch on those carrot seeds because they will not push up through a mulch like something like beans would, or cucumbers even would. So your carrots, when you're seeding them this time of the year, always good to have the carrot board technique on your side. A great thing about carrots, as I grab one right here, nice beautiful orange carrot, I'll have to snack on this one. So a great thing about carrots is, unlike something like your cucumbers, these are going to be ready far after your first frost. When it comes to carrots, they actually get sweeter when the ground gets colder. So even if we have a hard frost, these carrots are going to be in the ground getting even better tasting basically. So if you want to make sure you're harvesting delicious carrots in the fall and into the winter, you got to make sure you start planting them soon. Let me taste this baby. Oh. Incredible carrot flavor. Not super sweet, but again, if we eat these carrots late into the fall and into the winter when the ground starts cooling, these things will be even sweeter. The flavor, amazing though. Just so much like of that natural carrot flavor. And of course, they're Tuck approved, so you know they're the good stuff. Yeah, me and Tuck might be eating these carrots with some dirt on them, but when it comes down to it, dirt really never hurt. We're growing all organic, so hey, I think it's all good. I'll tell you what, there's nothing like sharing some fresh carrots right with the boss, when you're your best friend here. Beautiful day, sharing carrots and eating them. We all want you to have this opportunity, so make sure you get some of this stuff into the ground. The fifth crop that you can still plant in July is lettuce. Similar to carrots, lettuce can be a little tricky to germinate at this time of the year because it's so hot and the lettuce seeds do not really like to be buried deep. They actually need like a flash of light in order to germinate your lettuce seeds, which is, you know, different than a lot of your other seeds. And you can't bury them super deep like you would your beans or something, which gives it better germination because it's, you know, always wetter down there. So it's a little tough to get your lettuce seeds up. Because of this, what I like to do is I like to start my lettuce seeds in trays, like I do my cucumbers and stuff. I start them in trays, either underneath my shade cloth or in some filtered sunlight. After they have about 4 true leaves, I'll take my lettuces and transplant them into the garden. The only difference between when I plant them in spring and fall lettuce or even summer lettuce is I like to make sure I choose a location that gets a decent amount of shade. So you can either plant it in a spot that gets some filter shade from other plants, or you could just plant it in a location that gets partial shade from like a big tree or something. So we don't want to be planting our lettuce in a spot like I have right here in summer because it's just going to get too much light. Too much sun, it's going to get too hot, and then it's going to force this lettuce to bolt. Another thing we really need to think about when planting lettuce in the summer, has to do with the variety. So we want to choose a variety that's super bolt resistant. One of the best varieties is slow bolt. So this is just going to be less likely to bolt from the heat. So again, when growing lettuce in the summer heat, make sure you pick the right variety. The sixth crop you can still plant in July is Swiss chard. this nutrient dense plant is fantastic because it does relatively well in the heat and also does well in the cold. Bill Mollison says that Americans really overlook this plant and its value, and I tend to agree with him because, again, it just grows for such a long time and it does produce excellent food. It produces a long time for something like your greens too, and it's heat tolerant for something like some of your green plants and stuff, which usually don't do as well in the heat. But if you don't have Swiss chard planted, you need to make sure you get some in the ground now because it will just extend your growing season and it will be another fresh green that you can grab out of the ground, and still you can plant it at this time of the year and expect massive harvests. Another great thing about Swiss chard, as I harvest some of these leaves, is that these plants will grow well in partial shade. So if you have a location that's relatively shady right now and it's super hot out, this is a great plant to put in that shady spot where something like your tomatoes or something won't grow well. So again, don't waste a spot just because it's shady. Make sure you're growing some Swiss chard late into the year. The seventh crop that you can still plant in July, I like to encompass by saying all the brassicas, including kale, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. It may still seem early to start preparing things like our fall crops, but for some of our varieties that take like maybe 100 days, like some of our cabbages, we need to start thinking about getting those seeds into the ground so that we have enough time for those plants to mature. Something like our kales or something, we can start planting those whenever we want because we don't have to wait for those necessarily to mature to start getting a harvest from them. We could just harvest them when they're leaves, just like this. Like I mentioned earlier, we only have a little more than 100 days till our first frost, but that doesn't mean brassicas like our kale and our cabbages only have 100 days to grow. They have much longer than that because a lot of these varieties will grow way past their frost because they're really cold hardy. Something like our red Russian kale, that thing will grow like through the whole year around here. But some of our things like the cabbages that take about like 100 days to mature, they're not going to grow very fast once it starts to get cold out. So we need to make sure we get those in the ground soon so they have plenty of time to reach that maturity. If you don't have a lot of time till your first frost comes, you could grow some of the other short-dated cabbage varieties, something like the early Jersey Wigfield cabbage. It only takes about like 65 days to reach maturity. Sowing seeds, especially for brassicas at this time of the year, can be a little difficult, especially if you want to sow them directly. What I think the best thing to do is to start them in trays. This way you could cover the seed tray with like an insect netting if it gets really hot, and then once your plants have reached about 2 or 3 true leaves, you could start transplanting them into the location that you want to put them in. I suggest choosing a location that gets a decent amount of shade if you're going to grow something like your kale. But if you're going to grow something like your cabbages, you want to make sure those get a good amount of light because they need more light than something like your kale would. It's also important to think about when putting out your cabbages and your kales that you want to transplant on either a cloudy day or a day where you're going to get like a couple days of rain, because with extreme heat, these brassicas are not heat loving. So you want to make sure you can avoid that extreme heat when you're actually transplanting them into the ground. To me, July often feels like one of those months where I just want to kick back and relish in all the beautiful plantings that I put in the spring and summer. But that's not the right mindset. When we're harvesting, like at this time of the year, we shouldn't just be thinking about, oh man, it's so great to get that harvest. We should be thinking about, yeah, I'm getting this harvest, but what can I do in order to ensure myself another harvest later in the season? So if we want to make sure we're continually getting harvests, then we need to be continually planting seeds. So that's why I think it's important that you spend some of your July getting the 7 crops that I just shared with you into the ground. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. When it comes to gardening, I think like most of our favorite part of the whole entire thing is always the harvesting. But it's important to note that there is no harvesting without the sowing. So it's so important to spend a lot of time on the actual planting. Like I mentioned, if we want to be continually harvesting things, then it only makes sense that we're continually sowing things. And if you take a look at the end of the year and your harvests just aren't where they're at, I heard a good saying for that. You got to make sure you get some sowing going. So this is why I love making a video, especially this time of year. People might be thinking, oh, it's July. Let's kick back, let's get all of our summer and spring harvests, and then hopefully some of this stuff lasts till fall. Me and Tuck aren't into that. Me and the boss would rather spend some time planting more rounds of things. Like if our zucchini slows down, we've got new zucchini plants to put in. If something happens to one of our cucumber plants, we've got other cucumbers to replace it. Some of our brassicas, maybe they're starting to slow down when the heat comes. We'll get a whole nother round of brassicas planted that will do fantastic in the fall. So we need to make sure we're always planting things in the ground. Me and Tuck, fortunately, we're always planting things because we love growing just as much as harvesting. So I think that kind of makes it easier for us. Before me and the boss let you go, we want to mention a few things. First, we want to mention to grab some of the summer merch down at jamesprigioni.com if you want to support the channel. We got shirts, there's kids clothes there, there's women's clothes.
Anyway, so there was 7 ideas of things that we could plant this time of year, and I've got a couple more that maybe y'all have some more too. But one is you can still plant sweet corn. A lot of your sweet corn varieties are only like 100 days, so don't have a lot of time, but you still got time. And another one, if not surprised this guy from New Jersey didn't mention it, but field peas, black-eyed peas, and 100 other varieties. Most of them produce in about 60 days or less. So you can, in the South, they would normally actually get three crops out of them on the same spot. And the black-eyed pea is revered in the South because it saved them in the Civil War, because when the Yankees came through and stole or destroyed all their foodstuffs, they didn't recognize that black-eyed peas were human food, and their horses wouldn't eat them, so they didn't destroy them or carry them off. And that's what people in Georgia survived on after the raid through Georgia. So anyway, and you may think, well, I don't really care for black-eyed peas. Let me tell you, fresh, not dried out, but fresh, as soon as they get mature and they're still green in the shell, that's a whole different thing, and they are really tasty. And if you've never grown them, you probably should, just to know that you could, and it's something you could enjoy possibly. So anyway, anything else? Any other things you can think of to plant this time of the year?
Well, not so much plant, but peaches are, it's about time to start buying those if anybody wants to do something with them.
Was
I
that
found it interesting that he mentioned zucchini, because I was out looking at the pests that I'm dealing with on my squash plants. And they were saying in my zone, I should be looking at planting them late July, right? To not by seed, but by a little plantlet that by July, all the pests and beetles and whatnot have already laid their round for the summer. And then you have pest-free squashes.
Yeah.
So that's on my mind, because I am battling. I don't know why I'm battling. I feel like I should just rototill them under and wait till the end of July.
Come out there with
So here I sit in my garden, squishing eggs and lopping off dead leaves, and yeah, it's bad this year.
you can come out there with a flamethrower.
Yeah, truly. I mean, I look at my garden this year and I think it is the worst that it has ever been. Right. And it's a little disheartening, and thank heavens your wife goes over to a produce auction and can pick me up summer squash cheap and beautiful and all the same size, because I'm truly pitiful this year.
It always makes me wonder, though, that nice, beautiful squash and vegetables, how much did they have to spray on those to make them look that way?
Well, and some of them even sell with a little sticker that says no spray. Right. So I don't know if they've got them in greenhouses, because they are beautiful.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, some people do cover them with that remake cloth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the only way you can do it organic or no spray.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I'm thinking next Tuesday will be a day that I'll make a trip over. So anybody that's wanting something, start beating the bushes and deciding what it is.
Okay.
Because other people may want the same thing and may want to take part of an amount that I would get. So anyway, yay.
Yeah. Let me know if you're really going on Tuesday. I'll jump in the car with you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the day. I think
Okay.
it'll work out to be the best one. Already tied up for Thursday. So
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming out, and
Thank
we'll
you.
see you again next week.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye.